Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in. This is another deep dive into the shocks that we tested in Series 3 of Shock Value, which is a mid-budget series this time around, and we blind tested a whole bunch of shocks, this being one of them. These are the Dobinson MRRs, so we're gonna get deep into the nitty-gritty about what we thought about these shocks. I'm Braden from Overland Outfitters, this is Ian from Wheel Every Weekend, and we're here to do the thing.
Perfect. So, here's the thing about Dobinson. I love Tiffany blue. So these coils have a special place in my heart because these are perfectly Tiffany blue coils, I would like to say. I really wanted to like these, Braden. I really wanted to. I don't know what this paint is, but this cannot come off. It's insane.
Yeah,
it's so strong.
Nice. Yeah.
Meanwhile, we had shocks last season that are missing half their paint from being installed once. And these things, like, I don't know, you'd have to take a file to it to take the paint off. It's awesome.
Yeah. I was expecting to like these shocks. Yeah. Honestly, I came down here with the intention of leaving these on this truck because I seriously thought that these were gonna blow our minds, and they didn't. They just didn't. We actually ended up testing them 2 times. Once with so if you didn't know, these have high speed, low speed, and rebound adjustments. So I emailed Dobinsons directly and I asked them, hey, we're doing this blind test. I want to give your shocks the best possible opportunity to perform well. This is what we're doing. These are the tests we're doing. This is the truck we're doing on. This is the weight we have. What should we set these at? Because we're doing it blind and we can't tune them on the truck. And they sent me a list of specs and they said, this is what we would recommend. We threw those on here, we drove it, it was awful.
Yeah, it was just too bad. And we did test the non-reservoir versions of these last season and they were pretty rough. And yeah. I think I said during it, I was like, I don't think that the reservoir ones with adjusters will be any better.
Yeah.
Because if the normal valving is like that, then adding in like options to tweak the valving isn't going to help. Although these must have a lighter valve stack in the main piston because you can just make them so soft.
That's right. Like, yeah. So after we tested them with the first settings, which were recommended to us, we honestly were just like, these must be the Dobinsons and they must be just adjusted wrong because they're way too stiff.
Yeah, and their adjustments, like one of them I remember you told me was 8 turns, whereas in the instruction sheet it said 1 turn.
Exactly.
And I was like, whoa, dude, this is gonna be like, it's gonna be a pogo stick.
Exactly. So we tested them a second time blind and had them adjusted at what the instructions recommend. And then they were equally awful, just in a different way. They were way too springy. You're bottoming out, topping out, bottoming out, topping out. And it was so rough, just because you're blowing through the travel, it's like there's no valving at all. Whereas on the original test, it was way too stiff. I'm certain that we didn't even hit bump a few times. So it's really interesting. I think what we're gonna have to do is do a separate video where we take these back out on the truck and we adjust them ourselves for the truck, because that's the only way that we can get a fully representative test of these shocks. It's just impossible in a blind test.
Yeah, and full disclosure, it's like 10 p.m. and once we're done shooting this, we are putting these shocks back on the truck, and tomorrow morning early, we're going out to test them.
That's
because, like, we don't want to just leave it like this because it could be such a good product.
Yeah, and we just don't know. And we know that you guys are all going to be commenting saying, you guys don't know what you're talking about, you didn't adjust them correctly, blah, 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 even though we tried our best to do it blind.
Yep.
So we're going to go back out, we're going to make a totally separate video trying to redeem these. So that's the plan. But, as far as the shocks go, the build quality is nice. And I think that they could be good.
Yeah, they're great, I think. I mean, Cleveite bushings, we've already talked about the paint, which is phenomenal. They have this nice machined like bottom piece that holds the spring, and then with a dual lock nut system.
Yeah, infinitely adjustable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it should be good.
It's a good product, and they're one of very few shocks that have a rebound adjustment.
And yeah, they have it on the smooth body as well, on the bottom of the shaft. So this must be a hollow shaft.
Yeah, it is. I've taken them apart, and they are definitely hollow.
Yeah.
So
the reservoir is goofy on the front, though, where it mounts at the bottom. That's a bit weird.
Yeah, I do hate the routing of the reservoirs on these shocks. The way you have to, I think how it goes is it like comes up over the top of the shock, like behind the shock coil bucket, and then this mounts here, and it's got this big wrap of hose for some reason. Not a big fan of that, but maybe it's something to do with restrictions due to using a stock top hat, or something like that, or maybe it's the rebound adjustment. But yeah, that's the one thing that not a big fan of for sure.
Yeah, but besides that, man, another shock I really want to like.
So something interesting about the rear shocks on these, and these are the only ones that we noticed this with, is their shock bodies are way longer than anybody else's, and they have way more stroke. So when these were installed on the truck we're using a stock leaf spring with an add leaf in it. These shocks, we had to compress them probably 3, maybe 4 inches to get them to mount. And then we measured it, and this shock will probably bottom out about 1.5 inches before the bump stop hits the frame.
Yeah, and it's like the amount of shaft showing is like 2 inches less than the distance from the actual bump stop to the frame, but in a leaf spring application, the leaf spring actually lengthens as it travels up, so it is also moving backwards, which will help on one side and hurt it on the other.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like these have been smacked into too hard, but
I'm very interested to see. We had a GoPro under the truck facing right at these shocks, so I'm really interested to see the footage of that. Maybe we'll be able to cut that in here and see if they're actually smacking. But if I were to guess, they're definitely bottoming out on the shock.
Yeah, and what's interesting is all these shocks were specified for the same amount of lift for the same truck, or at least the same lift range. So yeah, I don't really understand why there's a big discrepancy in overall lengths. Even in the fronts, there's maybe a 1/4 or 1/2 inch difference between all of them, which seems odd to me. But again, we're gonna take these out. We'll have a video posted soon about it, and I'm excited to see how good we can make these things.
Yeah.
So Braden, with 5 as our baseline, what would you rate these out of 10?
I gave these a 6.5 out of 10.
6.5? That's quite good.
Yeah, I mean, they have adjusters, they have rebound, they have high and low speed compression. I'm 100% certain that we can get these performing better than we did. Maybe once we do the video where we, give these a better shot, intentionally trying to adjust them correctly, I can increase that score. But for now, a 6.5. What about you?
I gave them a 5. Just based on the performance that I saw with the 2 adjustment settings that we tried during the test, I just don't feel that it was much better than our baseline, to be totally honest. And they have adjusters and everything, which is great, but the adjustment that they recommended and then the adjustment that's in their instruction manual were both pretty rough for this application. So I think we can probably get these things pretty dialed. And that's the benefit of having external adjusters, is if you don't like how they ride, you can change it, but also you can get yourself into trouble, because I know a lot of customers don't necessarily know what they want, in that they don't know if they need more or less compression damping, more or less rebound damping, because it's kind of complicated. Like, we do this for a living, and it's normal to us, but if you're just an off-the-shelf consumer, like, it's intimidating to get all these knobs. You got this crazy thing. You got this little flathead dealie in here.
Yeah, it's true. And if you already own these shocks, you are gonna definitely wanna watch our next video where we show you how we adjust the shocks in the field, and we're gonna get these going as good as we can. So that's gonna be super fun.
Yep.
Really looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. If you do wanna see that, definitely do the subscribe thing, all that. And if you're looking for shocks, we would love it if you considered buying from either of us. Wheel Every Weekend, Overland Outfitters. We're going through a lot of effort to put these out so that you guys can buy the best products for your money. And it just helps us be able to do this more often. So thanks so much again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!